Yoga Teacher Hotline.
Hi, this is Suzi. My question is, how can I be and feel more safe in using anatomical cues and anatomical language in my classes? I am afraid that maybe I will say the wrong thing or use the wrong word. Thank you in advance for your help.
I love this question. I think it's a really good question, and to me it shows a teacher who is really wanting to teach a good class, wanting to make sure that their students understand what they're saying, wanting to make sure that they're offering different options through the understanding of anatomy. But here's a tricky thing about teaching anatomy informed classes. That's so much of what I teach. That's the bread and butter, the heart and the bones of what I share and have been sharing for the majority of my teaching years of almost 20 years of teaching. And of course, we've got our little anatomy guy here overseeing this Yoga Teacher Hotline. It is so important for many reasons to teach and have anatomy informed ways of teaching movement and asana in our classes. But then it becomes tricky because then, as the question is, well, how do we teach anatomical language in a way that really works for everybody? I always assumed there were certain muscles that everybody understood, that everybody knows what a femur bone is, everybody knows what glutes are. So this is the example. So I'm teaching a class and then I say blah, 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 something about your glutes in my cueing. And then bless this gentleman, he was in the front row and he's like, he pipes up and he's like, what are glutes? And for me, that was a beautiful eye-opening moment of, oh, wow, okay, right. Here's me assuming, oh, everybody knows what glutes are. And obviously they don't. And lucky for me, this gentleman was brave enough, because not everybody feels comfortable talking in the middle of a class, right? Piping up like that, for him just to ask, hey, what are glutes? So then since then, I often, if I'm going to use an anatomical term, it depends what it is. So let's say a muscle like the glutes, our butt muscles. I will say those terms interchangeably, meaning, so let's say we're doing a back bend and I want to say engage the glutes, which I don't necessarily always say, but that's another Yoga Teacher Hotline question to answer. But let's just say you're going to say engaging the glutes. And then I remember, oh, right, not everybody knows what glutes are, so what do they even know about engaging? Then so I may say, engage your glutes or feel the butt muscles. Or if you're like, well, even saying the word butt, like butt, not like your butt, as a teacher feels maybe too casual and maybe not appropriate. That's a personal thing, it depends. Then you can say you can be playful with it. Sometimes I'll be like your derriere, your behind. So whatever words you want to use colloquially for glutes, so the muscle, the anatomical name are gluteus medius maximus, like the glutes. You can say your butt muscles, again, your derriere, all these different ways of saying it, but I use them together. Or another example would be femur bone. So I often teach a lot about internal and external rotation of the thigh bones, of the femur bones for healthy functional hips, right? It's one of my favorite movements that we can do for our hips is some rotation action of the femur. But not everybody knows what the femur is. So then I say, in real life, it would be something like, okay, let's internally and externally rotate the femur or the thigh bone. And then I continue on with the cue. So I'm just using, I say the word because I still think it, for me as a teacher, I still feel like it's important for those to have, even just to hear the anatomical words, but cushion it or accompany it with the more, again, known words that most of us will understand. And then that way also too, as a teacher, you won't end up coming across, because I've been to classes before where I think teachers were being, it felt to me years and years ago, where maybe if the teacher is using only exclusively anatomical language in a generalized drop-in yoga class, it feels a little alienating and it feels a little pretentious. A little bit like, yes, look at me, I know all the words. Like, great, you know all the anatomy, but the people that you're teaching in the class probably don't care about the anatomy as much as you do. The people that you're teaching in the class just want to move and feel good. And so sprinkling a little anatomical words is great, but again, please accompany it with the words that we will be familiar, and therefore you're being a more effective teacher because you're meeting people where they are and at the same time showing them something a little bit different that they can take or leave. Maybe saying glutes still didn't make sense for that guy, but at least he probably knew what butt muscles was. Learning anatomy does not have to be complex, especially as a yoga teacher. Heart and Bones teacher training is the leader in anatomy-informed yoga, and it changes lives. So if you want this to be you and update your teaching, then join our next cohort of the Heart and Bones yoga teacher training. So you don't have to be too precious, just be simple and clear as a teacher, no matter what your cueing is, regardless of it being anatomically informed or not. Clarity and simplicity, and I'll add one more thing on that when it comes to cues and clarity of cues. Have a couple different ways of saying the same thing ready, because you'll know that you'll say a cue and then you're like, whoa, that did not land. So then but you still want to teach them the same action that you're trying to cue. So then you need to have a couple other ways to say that differently. Okay, well, that one didn't land. What if I said it sort of like this? Okay, you're looking around. Yes, that landed. Okay, I'm going to use that one, right? Or maybe you use that second cue in another class and that didn't land, but the other cue does. So you just have to have this lovely toolbox of different ways to meet people where they are. Okay, I hope that one helps. Nice and easy. And as always, if you need, or if you have a burning question as a yoga teacher, I probably can answer it. So you leave your questions in the comments, in an email, send them my way to the yoga teacher hotline.